In this video, we are going to be focusing on the NFL free agency. It's coming up pretty soon, and here are some key players that may shake things up in fantasy that I need you to pay attention to. What's up, guys? If we are meeting for the first time, my name is Ivan Herrera. The mission of this channel is to bring purposeful community to fantasy football and to give you the tools needed to be successful in your leagues. Hey, if you do me a favor, hit that like button. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Hit that push notification bell so that way you are notified whenever I upload a video or I go live. I'm so passionate to give you guys some fun insights to get you ready for the NFL free agency and some players to keep an eye out for. We all know the big news coming out of Dallas was that they were no longer going to sign free agent Amari Cooper. So when free agency opens up in March 16th at 4 p.m. Eastern, expect Amari Cooper to be one of those players to keep an eye out for. Now, here are the list of other players that are going to be worth mentioning when free agency is going to hit. The first one, of course, is the crown jewel Davante Adams out of Green Bay. Wide receiver for the Chicago Bears, Allen Robinson. Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver Chris Godwin. Odell Beckham Jr. out of the Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams. Los Angeles Chargers wide receiver Mike Williams. Miami Dolphins tight end Mike Gesicki. Atlanta Falcons Cordell Patterson. Tight end Dalton Schultz, as well as wide receiver Michael Gallup. The reason why it's important to be mindful of where certain players go is that it's easy to oversee the value of what a player may have going into a new offensive system. So the first example I want to mention is that of wide receiver Stefon Diggs. When Stefon Diggs signed over to the Buffalo Bills in 2020, his ADP was around 5th or 6th round. He was the 65 overall player on average in ADP, which was a pretty good value if you look at it now in hindsight. The reason why we say that is because he finished as the 5th overall best player in fantasy football that upcoming season. There were so many variables that, of course, attributed to Stefon Diggs being successful in Buffalo, but still, it's worth mentioning that there's so many things to be mindful of. You want to be mindful of different things like the coaching system, what kind of role will that player have in that system, and of course, what are the pieces around looking like? How's the quarterback situation? How's the running back, the offensive line? There's so many different things I could attribute to a player doing really well, and Stefon Diggs was an easy person that we overlooked going into 2020, but now in hindsight is something that makes sense now when you look at the system and how it catered perfectly to the skill set of Stefon Diggs. As you guys know, I do bold predictions more so in the offseason, but I have a bold prediction that I want to make going into free agency.
It's a bold strategy, Todd. Let's see if it pays off for him.
And that bold prediction is wide receiver Amari Cooper out of Dallas. There were so many question marks weeks leading up to free agency whether or not Amari Cooper was going to come back, being that he was due $20 million in salary this upcoming season. The news broke out that Amari Cooper was going to be released as soon as the free agent market was open on March 14th, which now leaves the wide receiver out of a team and looking for a new opportunity. So my bold prediction is that Amari Cooper is going to go sign with the Indianapolis Colts, being that they have a favorable cap space. When we look at the data for what it is, Indianapolis has a cap space of $35.9 million, which means that they could make a pretty fair run at Amari Cooper. And you think of the things that currently surrounds Indianapolis. They have a solid offensive line. Even though they underperformed last season, they have the pieces there to have a solid pass protection. They have a great running game with Jonathan Taylor. Plus, you already have an up-and-coming wide receiver in that of Michael Pittman Jr. that would be a phenomenal pair for Amari Cooper. And the thing is, we saw how far Indianapolis was almost able to go. They didn't make it to the playoffs. However, they have the pieces there to make a pretty good run, and I believe that Amari Cooper would be a phenomenal fit there. The point is, even if you have competent quarterback play along with those pieces, you have yourself a good shot to have a wonderful team by adding Amari Cooper to Indianapolis. So it'll be interesting to see where some of these other big names, as we mentioned, are going to go. A lot of them are wide receivers, so it'll be a lot of fun to see which teams look to invest for their young quarterbacks, being that the league is filled with phenomenal young quarterback talent. But hey, as the free agency market's going to hit pretty soon, I'll be sure to cover as much of the reaction and share the fantasy football implications. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Hey guys, thank you so much for making it to the very end of this video. If you haven't done so yet, be sure to hit that like button if you got value out of this video. I would appreciate if you also subscribe, hit that notification bell, and check out some other videos that I have here on my channel that will help you win your fantasy football league. Are you doing well? Keep it 100.